So, which river cruise brand is best?
I don't know. Who makes the best full-size truck?
Who has the best hotel chain?
The bigger question is who has the best barbecue?
You would ask that question.
I certainly would ask that question.
What's the best retirement plan?
It's all a matter of opinion, really. The best river cruise is going to be the one that is right for a particular individual and not necessarily a brand that's just the best of all of them. So opinion is a significant portion of that decision process, but so is making sure that you have the absolute right fit. Same thing goes with the river cruises, as well as the best barbecue, the best hotel chain, and the best retirement strategies.
This is William, and I'm Shelley with River Cruise Experts. We represent 12 river cruise brands serving the English-speaking market. Personally, we've been aboard 10 of these. Today, we're walking through 8 of them with you to help you decide which is best. We are saving Viking for the very last, and there's a reason for that.
On purpose. So we're going to start off with AmaWaterways, and this is actually one of our personal favorites, but part of that could be because it was the first one that we ever went on.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to tell you a real quick story before we jump into the brand itself. Shelley and I had traveled extensively via land, doing a lot of the Caribbean. We'd done some ocean cruises, and I came to her one day several years ago and I said, "Hey, let's do a river cruise." And she said,
Absolutely not.
"And why was that?"
We're way too young,
And
even though we may not look like it.
And we turned out that we weren't as old or young as we thought we were. We ended up going on AmaWaterways. We sailed on the Ama Magna ship, which is a ship that is double the width of most, and it sails down the Danube River. We sailed from Budapest to Bavaria, stopping off in places that you might have heard of in Vienna. We stopped off in Dürnstein, which was quite a favorite little city. And then we sailed through the Wachau Valley and spent some additional time in Bavaria. We absolutely loved the experience. We had a twin balcony room, which was absolutely magical. But one of the nice things about that brand that really made it special to us was the bikes that they had on board. We had the ability to grab one of the bikes and go off on some of the towpaths next to the river, see some of the beautiful scenery there. The Ama Magna, most specifically, has 4 different dining venues, but
Yes.
most of them just have the 2. So most of your river cruise ships throughout Europe and elsewhere around the world that AmaWaterways is sailing on, it's going to have your main dining room as well as the chef's kitchen. And that really is an excellent example of the experience you're going to have. AmaWaterways is just a little bit more of an active experience. It's a little bit more family friendly. So the 3 individuals that started, and they're still an active, integral part of it. And it's, of all the different brands that we've been aboard, it just felt like it had more of that family feel than some of the others that we've experienced since. So it's just a great time. The excursions are all included, so you have multiple options in each of the ports. You have the ability to go hiking, biking, kayaking, all the things that I really definitely enjoy. And then as an additional side, AmaWaterways is also sailing the Columbia River in South America. We're going to be sailing ourselves in September of this year on the Magdalena River, going from Cartagena to Barranquilla, and we're going to spend a few days in Medellin. We'll give you some more details on that after a little bit.
So the next brand we're going to talk about is Avalon, another A property, right? So we've done Ama and we're going to do Avalon next. Avalon is known for panorama suites. That is what they are known for in the business, and they are beautiful. Their beds actually face the river. So when you walk in, you're actually get to see that beautiful view of the river. So even if you just have a French balcony, it's right there for you.
Most ships are going to have the beds face north and south. So front of the ship to the back of the ship. And to be able to see out your balcony, you would be looking over to the side to be able to see out. Versus the panoramic suite with Avalon, you're going to be looking up over your toes and out to your French balcony door.
Absolutely. And they open completely. So the cabin becomes an open air balcony. Because balconies are way different on river cruises than they are in ocean cruising.
Very much.
So we try to explain that to clients also on what the difference is there.
Well, when we sailed on an ocean cruise, we would like to go out and hang out and explore the ports, but we also spent more time actually in our stateroom during those
Absolutely.
trips, just because you're out sailing at sea during daylight hours and you only want to people so long, and maybe you want to go and just relax a little bit and sit on your balcony and watch the oceans go by. So the experience is a little bit different on the river.
Absolutely. We did not use our balcony as much as we thought we would on a river compared to an ocean cruise. So The big part about Avalon also is they are part of the Globus family of brands. If you know anything about land touring, you may have heard of Globus and Cosmos, which are sisters. And Avalon, we like to call is the high class cousin of Globus. So it also is a great segue into maybe you want to spend a little bit more time after you get off the ship in Amsterdam, but you don't want to be left by yourself. And there's a couple other videos that we have on, adding tours at the end, etc., to your river cruise. So we can go into a little bit more or a lot more detail about that in a later video.
And I would say that the biggest piece about Avalon is their active and discovery
Mhm.
itineraries. They are, in our opinion, the most active cruise line on the rivers. It doesn't mean that we're out running marathons or doing,
No.
major triathlons by any stretch, but you do have an active director that's on the ship as
Mhm.
well as the tour director, and they're going to be offering you some short hikes, some short bike rides, things that are just helping to elevate the exercise experience that you're going to have.
When we did ours, so we sailed Avalon in the south of France. My favorite itinerary by all stretch of the imagination. It was fantastic. By doing that, though, with that active and discovery itinerary feel, I went truffle hunting while William went off and did wine tasting in a cave. That is not your typical river cruise activity. That is not what people think of when they think of river cruising. And, my 75-year-old grandma is river cruising, and that's not for me. Well, if you want the experience and the activity of, tasting wine in a cave and the differences, and maybe go truffle hunting with the dogs and all of that, it is perfectly acceptable. And it's one of the great amenities of Avalon. So Avalon is definitely geared towards activity, and it has all the great they do quite a bit outside of Europe. So even to dig in a little bit more to that active traveler that wants that experience.
We've got a lot more we can share with you about Avalon. We can talk for hours about the brand, but we're going to move on to the next one, which is Scenic. We're also going to give you a real quick bonus here. So Scenic actually is two brands. It is Scenic and Emerald. We call Scenic kind of the luxury brand of the mix, and Emerald is the four-star cousin. So both of them operate under the same parent company. It is an Australian brand, so they come from Australia. They have exceptional service on the rivers. They do have butler service available for some of the top categories. Their ships are a little bit fewer guests on the Scenic. Emerald is going to have a few more just because of the price point that they're sailing with. But I will tell you, for the two experiences that they offer, so a nice premium experience and then the luxury experience, what we find best for them is when somebody has the flexibility within their itinerary. So we know that we want to do the Rhine, we know that we want to do the Danube, we know we want to do the Douro, but they have flexibility in their schedule. We can utilize Scenic and Emerald with some of our private pricing that we have with them to get you an absolutely exceptional deal. And some of our best deals have been with those two brands. About a year and a half ago, we took Shelley's parents on a river cruise and we took Emerald just because of the price point they were able to give us. And we just had an excellent experience. They are a little bit more of a modern finish, I would say. They do have very similar inclusions to what AmaWaterways is providing to us, and we just have found them to be a really good value, especially we can get you an excellent offer on that.
So next we're going to move on to Riviera. And most of you are going to furrow your brow at that and say,
Who is
who is
that?
that? They have been in the river cruise space for over 40 years, but they are UK based. So they are newer to the US market. So if you haven't heard of them, you should and you will. They are growing by leaps and bounds in the US market. Their land program is off the charts. So going back to kind of that Globus feel of before and after pre and post cruising, Riviera has a phenomenal program in place, and they do a fantastic job with solo sailings. So
Love it.
we,
Solos.
yes, we have seen a huge uptick in solo sailings, which is fantastic. But a lot of your river cruise companies and ocean cruising, for that matter, add in that single supplement. And sometimes that prices it out of the market for most people. So Riviera does a fantastic job with solo pricing and the fact of they don't charge that single supplement for solos. They do have solo cabins available. So you have your own little space. You don't feel like you're missing someone in your room or you don't feel comfortable in your space. So it's a wonderful value for that.
Starting next year, they've got an entire ship
Yes.
dedicated to sailing with solos only all year long.
Yes.
So just a
So
fantastic
make you
piece.
feel more comfortable again in the space of other solo travelers, meet some brand new, beautiful, lifelong friends in that
Yeah.
space. So that will be a great asset
And again,
to the
back to
river
their
cruise market.
history. So with a 40-year-old brand, they're actually more than a decade older than Viking. So Viking is currently celebrating the 30th year anniversary, and Riviera is now celebrating past the 40 mark. But they just began marketing in the US. We're going to have some videos with them coming out very soon. We've got three videos scheduled for them on the calendar. And one other last itinerary to mention that we're very excited about.
They're going to be going to the Mekong in 2027. So again, a great price point to kind of get that far away, once in a lifetime trip that is going to be totally
We're kind of blown away by the
doable.
price point.
Yes.
Sometimes we find the Mekong can be $10,000 to $20,000 per person for a 14-day experience, and this one's looking like it's going to be in the $5,000 to $7,000 per person price point. So definitely reach out to us. We're still gathering some details, but we do have one of those 3 videos coming up with Riviera that is going to be specifically about
Don't
the
be
Mekong.
surprised if you see us on the Mekong with them in 2027, because
We're
that's
penciling in a date.
definitely on the plans.
So the next brand we're going to talk about is also older than Viking. It's one
Another
that
A
most
brand.
of you haven't heard of. Yes, Amadeus is an amazing brand. They are an Austrian brand, so more central to Europe, but they are about 42 years old at this point. And similarly to Riviera, they started selling elsewhere before they came to the U.S. They've only been selling in the U.S. market for about 8 to 10 years at this point. But they're doing an amazing job. They've got some really special ships that are now coming out on the water with hydrogen power, and it's just an amazing piece to kind of go with. We saw them at the River Cruise Expo last year, and the ship was just
The ship was beautiful. We
stunning.
actually are putting together, we actually have a group going on their Christmas market cruise for 2027 on Amadeus. Super excited about that. They also run a 15% solo supplement, so not quite that full 100% that some companies run, or even 75% that some do. Again, I think William mentioned they own and operate their own ships, so there is no chartering, which can be, part of the issue in some of that river cruise space. The cabins do start fairly large at 172 square feet, which is larger than what most of the river cruise fleet across the board runs. They have had a new ship every year since 2015. That's a hard thing to say when you're a river cruise company. The nice part about Amadeus is it hits that wonderful entry price point because your excursions are a la carte.
Yes.
So you don't have any that are included, but you do purchase them on and only pay for what you want to do. If you don't want to do a city walking tour, it's not built into the price. So feel
You
free
don't
not
feel
to do
bad
it. And you don't
to
feel,
skip it.
yeah, you don't
Right.
feel bad about if you want to take a leisurely morning and have breakfast, on your balcony. Let's say you have a balcony and want to have breakfast on your balcony, or a late breakfast, or, you just want to sit up on the sun deck and sip some coffee in the beautiful weather. You're not going to feel guilty for doing that. That's a huge bonus with Amadeus.
A lot of times that we're talking to people and they are exploring Europe, or they've been to Europe a few times, they know exactly what they want to go and see, but they just don't want to have to change hotels over and over and over again, jump on a train, take all your luggage, go to the next hotel, check in, check out. All that burns up a lot of time on a very valuable time trip. And what Amadeus is just best at is not including those excursions, and that helps the independent traveler go see and explore and just have a hotel that's moving with them, providing them with great dining,
Right.
food, and beverage for their
They
trip.
may have seen that castle 3 other times and don't want to go see it again. So they would have something else to choose from to make that experience all their own.
So we've just walked through 5 brands so far with 5 different best 4 answers, and that's exactly the point. There's no single best river cruise line. There's just one that's going to be the best fit for you. So what we do is providing you with a consultation call. It's complimentary. We're happy to visit with you for 15 minutes up to an hour or even more, depending upon the level of information you're looking for and how much consultation you would like. We'd be thrilled if that were us to visit with you. But in any case, we definitely would suggest you work with somebody that has sailed with multiple river cruise ships and has really studied them extensively so they know all these nuanced differences between the different ones. We've been working with 12 brands at this point. We're going to cover a bunch of those brands, but we're actually going to not have time to go through all of them. We would be more than happy to visit with you and kind of learn more from you as to what you're looking for and what's going to be the best fit. So if there's something that we can provide you with, there's going to be a link in the description down below. I'm going to pop up a QR code here on the screen for you. Absolutely no pressure, just a free consultation. We'd be happy to visit with you.
We're going to touch on a couple more. Next one we're going to talk about is Uniworld. So some of you may have heard of Uniworld. You may have seen all the tapestry and the luxury that it looks to be, which is absolutely the case. It is considered boutique luxury on every ship. Every ship is decorated uniquely, which is phenomenal to see. We've walked through several of them. Some of them, I'll be very honest with you, are way over the top, but it is an amazing experience to view those. They do have some new ships.
I think my eyes were burning on one
Yeah,
of them.
yeah. Most men would think that their eyes were burning, but some of the new ships have been completely done in a beautiful, more monotone, not quite so loud, not quite so busy as before. But you do absolutely get that full luxury feel of what it is. They are considered all-inclusive, which is a little bit different than some of the other brands. There's a few out there, and William's going to talk about another one next, but they are considered all-inclusive. So your drinks, your excursions, your tips, your transfers, all are included. There's nothing that could absolutely at all surprise you with Uniworld. Much smaller, more intimate setting. Their cabins are a little bit bigger, so they don't hold quite as many people. They have a little bit more space in their, in the public spaces, so it gets used very, very well. They also are a player in the exotic market, which is on the huge uptick for exotic river cruising. The Nile, the Mekong, the rivers in India. People don't think of those when they think of river cruising. They think of the Rhine and the Danube, which are great. We've sailed them, and those are a great place to start. But if you are that traveler that has been there, done that, and wants something a little bit different, there's a couple companies out there that will definitely fit the bill for you. So if you want that boutique hotel on the water to get you from point A to point B, Uniworld would be what you're looking for.
And the next luxury brand that we want to talk about is Tauck. So Tauck actually started in the USA, and they are just now right at 101 years old. So last year they celebrated their 100th anniversary. They started off with land tours up in New England from a traveling salesman that decided to put a publication in a newspaper to offer to take people around on his sales route, and the brand just kind of took off from there. But what Tauck does uniquely for their experience, they've got some of the fewest guests on the ship. And one of the things that we really haven't talked about much yet, but I do visit with my clients, each of these ships that are sailing the Rhine, the Danube, and some of the other larger rivers, they're all exactly 443 feet long. They're 38 feet wide. It's just how they get carved up on the inside that makes the big difference. So when Tauck is sailing some of these rivers, and one of the brands we're going to talk about here in just a moment is going to carry 190 guests, perfectly fine, perfectly wonderful experience. Some of the other brands are going to have 180, 170. AmaWaterways is typically in the low 160s. Tauck is going to be around 130. So you can see that when you have fewer people onto the ship, you've got more space for the staterooms. You've got a little bit more space to put into the lounge, to some of the amenities that are going to be on board. And it's just going to kind of weave together that experience. Now, what Tauck does to really elevate the experience is they take excursions that are just above and beyond. So we did a Tauck excursion in Vienna that was mind-blowing.
Over the top.
Experience.
Over the top.
It was just absolutely amazing. It was supposed to be kind of a secret, but we knew some of the details that were involved. But they took us up to a palace, and we went inside, and we had a musical quartet that was playing for us. And right after the quartet, we were sat for dinner. We were served by butlers, and the service was probably the best restaurant experience we've ever had. It was absolutely stunning. And that sounds like a wonderful, charming experience. There was a ballet and there was opera going on in the dining room while we were sitting and having dinner with just 100 people. So it was just kind of an incredible experience. Some more things that Tauck does, just to give you a couple of more examples, is if you're up in Paris, they're going to take you to the Louvre, and you're going to be able to go into the Louvre an hour before it opens to the public. So just you and 110 to 130 guests that are with you are going to be going to the Louvre and having the entire museum to yourself for an hour before open. And they do these experiences on all the different rivers throughout Europe. Just have a conversation with us. We'd be happy to share those details.
Should we talk about the gorilla in the room?
I think we should.
Okay. So let's talk about the biggest cruise line that does the best marketing, the most marketing. You probably received their flyers. You've seen their ads, their TV ads, their print ads. We could go on and on and on, right?
Did you know they spend $1 million a day on marketing?
I've heard this.
Yes.
I've heard this.
Pretty amazing.
So lots of things about Viking are wonderful. There's a few things that maybe aren't so wonderful, and that's okay. They still might be wonderful for you as a consumer.
Right.
So let's touch base on those a little
It's our
bit.
number one selling brand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every day. Consistently, we get phone calls about, I want to go on a river cruise with Viking, and we talk with you and we ask you the questions to make sure Viking is the correct fit, because it isn't the correct fit for everyone.
Not for everyone.
So one of the big things with Viking is all their ships are consistent. If you've been on one ship, you've been on them all. They are all in that Scandinavian light wood feel, very minimalistic,
Think IKEA.
Yes, think IKEA, not over the top in art or decor or any of that, which is perfectly fine. They're still beautifully, they're still beautiful ships. They still are very comfortable. People love them. And people love the fact that once they've been on one, they've been on all of them. So when you walk on 2 years later to a different ship, you still feel like you've come, quote unquote, home because you've been on that ship before.
Right.
So people love that. The thing with Viking is you do get your included excursions. You get one included excursion. It's going to be a city walk tour in the cities. It's just what it is. Some people love those because maybe they haven't been to Europe before.
When we go, we're looking at all the options that some of these other cruise lines give us, and they're always going to include 3-4 different things, but we end up doing the city walking tour because we're going there for that cultural experience.
Sure.
To see the beauty, and sometimes I'm allured away to go do something that's more unique, like the wine tasting in the cave. But at the end of the day, we often come back to do.
We do it most often, even if we've been to the city before, we'll do the city walking tour again because each guide's going to give you a little bit more information that you didn't get the last time.
Or we forgot.
Or we forgot. So it's a great selling point no matter what.
So they offer the one, and then they have some additional ones that you can
purchase. Correct. But that included one is going to be that city walking tour.
Right.
Your beer and wine with lunch and dinner are included. That's the same with most of your brands, but that's a great inclusion. Much different than ocean cruising. I shouldn't say there isn't a drink package, but you can count on your beer and wine being included with lunch and dinner. Viking is very cultural enriching, just like a lot of
cruise.
Yes, it is the thinking man's cruise. So not a lot of extra activity per se. You're not going to find the bikes. You're not going to, go kayaking on an excursion, that type of thing. All their excursions are much more cultural based. And I say this because it doesn't matter that, if you want to be active, you could be. It's not that you have to, follow the mass of people, but there are more people on these ships, just like William mentioned before. So you have 190 passengers. So that City Walk tour is going to have more people than it would with all the other brands. Not necessarily a downfall. It's just something to be aware of. So maybe you're a little bit slower walker. That's okay. Maybe you like to walk fast, like somebody else I know. That would drive him crazy with that many more people in a group. So that's usually why we usually break off after a little bit
between the two of us so that we can kind of expand our experiences.
Correct.
If she goes one way, I go another direction.
And a lot of times we'll meet up at dinner and talk about our experiences, which is great. Most clients do ask us about Viking first because of the marketing that they do, which is perfectly good. But remember, when you call us and want that consultation, we're going to ask you a lot of questions because we want the best fit for you. Viking may not be it, and we're going to be very forthcoming with that. Because there's nothing worse than being on a ship if you are if you want to go out and do a practice marathon in Europe in, say, Cologne, and be stuck on a Viking ship with clients that aren't going to be doing the same activity as you. So we will keep that in mind with the questions that we ask.
We've been keeping a little bit of a tally mark on the conversations and the questions that we get from the people that give us a call. And some people have actually thought that Viking was one of the most expensive ones that were out there. That's actually not the case. They actually offer a tremendous value, especially if you're working with a qualified travel agent that's going to get you some of the best promotions that are out there. So we do have another video that does talk about Viking and the use of the promotion codes. I'm going to put a link down in the description for you below that you can take a look at that. We would highly recommend that before booking a Viking vacation, if that is the one that you're going to be looking for.
Absolutely.
So some of the other things, I don't know if we pointed out, they do not have any kids under the age of 18.
Correct.
So some of the brands out there are allowing kids as young as 4. Some are coming out very, very soon. We're going to be talking about here in the next couple of months. That's going to take children at the age of 4. But Viking just does not feel like going that direction. They don't dislike children. They just don't want the children on their river cruise. And a lot of people agree. We
Right.
have been the same.
18 years and older, which most of the experiences are geared towards that older crowd. And I say older being 18. But that being said, I've never seen a kid. We've never had kids
We've
on
never had a
any,
kid on any of the ships that we've been on.
even if they do allow them. So
Yeah,
don't feel like, that you just stepped onto a Norwegian or Royal Caribbean cruise,
right.
because it's not going to be the same.
There actually are a couple of brands, and if you are interested in learning more details about it, there are 2 brands that do have some specific kids itineraries. They're very limited. They're only during the summertime for the most part, and a couple of holidays. But they are an exceptional experience if you are wanting to do kind of a multi-generational experience. So definitely
Absolutely.
reach out if you'd like to learn some more information about that. So some of the other things that Viking is doing, just to kind of wrap up talking about Viking, they limit the number of amenities that they have on board. So no pools, no spa, no fitness center. And for a lot of people, that just doesn't even matter. They're not looking for that type of an active experience. They don't have bikes on board when many other brands do. And by saving and not putting some of those amenities out there is what helps them bring that price back down. So it does help elevate the experience in other aspects while cutting back in some of those other areas that just might not be important to you. And that's where that fit conversation really comes into play.
Viking is a very well-oiled machine. Their pre and post program is fantastic. You will never feel like there's a hiccup. It's just it's a well-oiled machine that's been around for a very long time, and they do logistics extremely well.
100%. I
Yep.
was just thinking while you were saying that some of the travel agents in our community, and we're going to give you some little insider secrets, do not like Viking, and they
Correct.
think that they're just not as friendly. I find them extremely friendly, but I've built some excellent relationships with a lot of the Viking management. So I've been able to figure a lot of that out and really build those relationships and get you the best offers when we're talking to them. But as she mentioned, the logistics are absolutely spectacular. Out of all the 12 brands and more that we work with, Viking has just knocked it out of the park from logistics. What does logistics mean? They make sure that you get to the ship. So if you're flying in, your plane is late, they're going to make sure that you still get transferred to the ship. They're not going to leave you behind sitting there waiting on the side of the pier, wondering where the ship went. They are exceptional from a logistics standpoint. And that's one of the things that we greatly appreciate about that brand.
Absolutely. So is Viking the best?
For a lot of people, it is.
I would agree with that, but I would also agree that there's a lot more to look at too.
Certainly. But what is best is kind of a personal decision. It depends on what's important to you, having the best fit. We just walked through 8 different brands that are going to serve 8 completely different people's
Mm-hmm.
fit opinions. And we, again, represent 12 different brands in total. One that we didn't mention altogether yet today, I'll give you a short, quick list of that. It's going to be Trafalgar, which has been in the tour business for a number of years.
A
A
land
land company
program.
first that
Mhm.
is definitely making waves. We did briefly mention Emerald, even though it wasn't technically on our list. Riverside is a luxury brand. They do an excellent job. My concern with them, to be real honest with you, and I'd share this on any phone call of somebody that reached out to me about Riverside, they have 1 ship per river. And when you have a river level water issue, you have no ability, there's no backup plan.
Right.
They can't go from one ship to another ship, and that's something we would talk to you about. And then the last brand that is brand new coming to the market that a lot of people are quite excited about, we alluded to it a little bit earlier, is
Celebrity. So you may know them in the ocean, the ocean faucet, and they're huge in the ocean market. Fabulous ships in the ocean market. Some big, beautiful new ships, but they are sticking their big toe into the river market and making waves doing it
in a big way.
In a big, big way. They've been talked about a lot within the travel agent community and even the actual general public community. They have put on their 2027 itineraries
33
and
sailings.
33 sailings, and they sold out in less than
6 minutes.
6 minutes. So
God.
lots and lots of chatter about Celebrity. They have opened up for 2028, which I think they are sold out now.
2028 still has some space available.
But
I have been
extremely
looking
limited.
through, but they are somewhat limited. And 2029 will probably get released later on this summer. So that's really why the consultation is kind of an important piece of the puzzle. That's what we're here to help you with. We study this every single day, all day. River cruising is all that we subscribe to. Shelley has been in the industry for 25 years. She used to do absolutely everything. I joined her about 5 years ago and have focused several of those years just specifically about rivers and knowing the different brands and the different nuanced differences between them. A lot of travel agents that are out there are absolutely wonderful, but they've only experienced one, maybe two brands, and they don't have that breadth of differentiation that's going to be important to make sure that the right fit is found for you. So if you found this information helpful, feel free to hit the subscribe button. We're going to have more videos coming out with brand conversations and brand interviews coming up in the near future. We're also going to start talking about some of those exotic rivers. If you would certainly leave us a comment and a like, that would greatly help out our channel.
Thanks so much.